Hi everyone and welcome to my channel. Today I have a brand new Begode MCM5. The plan is to prepare it for daily usage, to make the HydroProtection for this wheel, to do the reinforcement of the inner shell, and of course during this process I will totally disassemble this wheel and we will check the build quality of it, if it has any issues or not, what is changed, or everything is the same like in my MCM5. We will check that. Of course, I will do the tuning of this wheel with the top level accessories from EUCYou brand. The set includes these custom pedal hangers, which we will talk about a little bit later. We will compare it with the stock ones and check what's the difference. We also have here the capacitor, which will give additional stability to this wheel on the bumps. And of course, there will be installed custom pedals and custom fiberglass protection shell, which are currently in production right now, but anyway I will make some pictures of this wheel at the end of this video. Traditionally I will leave Instagram link to EUCYou brand in the description to this video. Feel free to check it out because EUCYou brand has lots of tuning accessories to Begode and Gateway wheels, which will make your wheel look unique and stylish. As I am preparing this motor for lacquer coverage, I would like to start my review of the build quality from this motor. And first of all, what I'd like to show you is this winding. So you see it's moving here almost freely, here as well. So I don't like this, and I've already fixed it with this cord here. I will do the same to this part and this part of the winding, maybe here. I will check that. The next thing I would like to show you is that I found here a piece of this wire. It is fixed here maybe with lacquer or something else, I don't know. It is really obvious that this wire is big enough that if it will go in the gap between the rotor and stator, it can block the motor and the rider will fall off from the wheel, with definitely negative consequences to his health. From the other side of the rotor, I don't like how much sealant is put here to fix this whole sensor board. I will definitely put more to make it more rigid and to make sure that it will never touch the cover and will have any negative consequences to the motor. So you see here it is also moving freely. I'm not applying too much pressure, so a better fixing is definitely required to this part of the motor. Also, I would like to pay your attention here on this part of the motor. Although I've already worked with a lot of motors, I see this just the first time. It looks like the heat shrink tube here on the winding. I don't know why it is done here, and yeah, the motor still works fine and I will leave it like that, but this looks really weird. Now I showed you a good way of installation bearings into the covers. I've put the new bearing into the freezing camera for 24 hours, then I've heated up the cover, just put the bearing inside, and when the temperature between the bearing and the cover aligned, it started to sit here very well and tightly. So you do not need any tools like press tool or something else. It is really easy and safe, and there is no risk to damage this bearing place in the cover. By the way, I will use these SKF brand name bearings here in this motor. I use it in all motors which I am working with. And pay attention that during the bearing installation I've put some oil here in its place, and also I will put oil inside of the bearing when I will install it on the motor axle. The reason for doing so is that I want to prolong the life of this bearing place, because when you are pressing the bearings in and out, this place is being damaged a little bit one by one, and when you do I don't know how many times this procedure, there may be the problem that this bearing won't sit tightly in its place and the motor covers changing will be required. So this is something to avoid this. And the second problem may happen is that the bearing may become rusty on the motor axle, and this will result in the problems of its removing from the motor axle, and sometimes people have to use special tools to cut it, and of course there is a big risk of damaging motor axle. So to avoid that, I always use some lubrication here inside. So when the bearing change is required, it can be done really easily without any special force applying to do it. So now, as the motor is fully covered with lacquer, I've covered the stator with lacquer, I've covered the rotor magnets, and also I've covered the inside area of the covers with the lacquer as well. The reason for doing so is that sometimes raw adhesions may seep in through these bearings and get inside the cover, and here becomes some kind strange of corrosion. So to protect the covers from these problems, I always put the lacquer into its inner side. Now it's time to talk about paint quality of these covers. So this cover looks good. There is some minor damage of the paint here where the bolts are fixed tightly, but this is pretty normal. So here is some strange thing. It's not a scratch, but this is okay as long as it covers the metal. And here the situation is a little bit worse. You see here that the paint just wants to go away from the metal. So here, here, and here as well we have some problems with painting. So it's not a scratch. It's like something missed in painting technology, and the paint just leaves the surface. And here in this area we see the strange thing. Maybe it is scratch, or maybe it is the same story like here or where the bolt holes are. I don't know, but it is really obvious that someone painted this motor on the factory before assembling it, and they decided to send it to the customer, but not to repaint the whole cover at all. I guess there is some kind of problem and painting technology, I don't know. So I have assembled the motor, I have painted all the problem places on the covers, and now I have showed you the process of the installation of the sealers. Here this will give additional protection to the bearings from water and dirt and grass. So this is a standard sealer, but I have to mod it a little bit because its height is 5 mm here, and the height of this distance bushing is also 5 mm. And if we leave it like stock and assemble the pedal hangers, the sealer is going to touch this plate, and this is really a bad idea to do so, because I think it will get hot while riding and will lose all its qualities and will be absolutely useless. So I cut here 1 mm of rubber. Also I have removed the inner lip, but this is not really a problem because the inner lip of the sealer just serves for holding liquid grease inside the motor, like not going through the axle. and this outer lip serves for protection the motor from water and dirt and grass inside. So even in this case of cutting a little bit from the sealers, they will work perfectly without any problem and protect the bearings inside the motor. I've added this marine grease under the sealer, so it will be another barrier from water ingress into the sealers. Although the sealer is installed here really tightly in this place, I've made the decision to use this B7000 glue. This is really soft glue. It is used in cell phone repairs, for example, to fix the display. So in case if a bearing and sealer replacement is required, it is really to disassemble this construction and do all necessary maintenance for this motor. To continue assembly quality check of this wheel, we have to make a closer look at the batteries. This is the side battery, and I always check these shrinkable tube joints here so that it is covered very well with the sealant here and on this side. So this battery looks good. I haven't found any problems here. Anyway, I will put some more sealant here where the cables go out to make sure that this battery is very well packed and protected from water ingress. This is the upper battery of this wheel, and here we do not see any problems either. But on the other side there is a big potential problem. So this is my stick, and I can put here in this hole. You see it's really big. I put the stick inside without any problems, and it goes really deep. Here we have another hole as well, and this is something which definitely needs to be fixed. I will cover it with sealant as well. So through these holes water can seep in and short circuit the battery, and the result will be the fire. Here in St. Pete we had already one issue with brand new MCM5, which was burnt after snow riding. So the rider used it in deep snow, then he put it in his car on the side, and the wheel started burning after some time. He just put it off from his car, and it was burned away on the street. So I guess this is the same problem happened in his wheel. And if you do the maintenance of your wheels, please check these potential problems and be very careful with that, because batteries are really a dangerous part of the wheel, which may cause problems at your home or in your car. By looking into the inner shell, I was really impressed by the accuracy of the assembly. All wiring looked really accurate. You see this tube, all wires comes inside, and when the motor was installed here with all its wires, it was also done really accurate with these tires, and it looks really impressive and nice. I also would like to mention this new fuse which Begode introduced in MCM5 wheels. I hope it will come to all other wheels, because this is much better than the traditional fuse. Although it is a really expensive detail in comparison with the traditional fuse. Although this new fuse is much more expensive than the traditional ones, its reaction time is much faster. And of course this will give much more chances for survival for the controller board in case of short circuit due to water ingress, or maybe a MOSFET failure or something else. There is just one thing I didn't like here, is that this fuse is not fixed very well. So here we have the wooden screw on this side, and here we do not have any. So it fixed here on this side just with the sealant. And of course I want to appreciate Begode for this wiring harness. Now it's kind of standard on these connectors for all Begode wheels, and this really helps to get rid of all unnecessary wires and make the wiring inside the wheel much more accurate and looking awesome. One of the screws of the cooling system was not properly tightened. You can see that it is kind of protruding from this cooling plate, and now if I move it like this, we can see that the whole cooling assembly is moving with the controller board, which is not really good and may result in tremor of the wheel. Of course I will fix it now. Every EUC maintenance sometimes brings you surprises. So now we are looking at the controller board under my microscope, and what I want to show you here is this cap, which has a dent. I found this while removing the factory compound from the controller board. Right now I will show you the photo which shows you the position of this place on the controller board. So I couldn't see it before I started the procedure because this place was covered by the sealant. So after removing the sealant, I noticed this dent. By the way, it's not the first time I have such problems with Begode controllers. The EXN wheel, which I was working with before this MCM5, had also missing cap. Right now I will show you the photos, how it looked like. And now we have a cap with dent. I don't know if it's a problem, or maybe this dent is not significant. I am not the professional in electronics. So if you know more than me, please tell in the comments if I can leave it like this. And of course the controller board was working normally before the disassembly, but I really do not like it. So the plan is to desolder this cap, measure its nominal, and replace it with a new one to make this controller board perfectly built. the process of installation of this controller board with the heatsink, I have made the decision to install the thread bushings into the inner shell, because one of the basements for the wooden screws was damaged and it was cracked. I think it was tightened really hardly, and that might cause the problem in future. Additionally, I have modified the fixation of this fuse. I've added another fixing point here. I've used the thread bushing and the screw here of the smaller length, so it wouldn't touch the battery and even this foam material anyway, and won't damage the battery, just in case of Begode thought about this and they didn't install the wooden screw here and just put some sealant here. You may see now that the controller board is no longer glossy, it's kind of matte color. This is because I have removed the stock compound from all its elements, and this is the crucial point for applying the Silagerm compound, which I am using for the HydroProtection of all controller boards of the wheels I am working on, because Silagerm has thermal transfer capabilities and it is really necessary that it will touch the crucial elements of the board, like the central processor, like the gyroscope, or maybe something else on the board which can heat up during the operation. And if you leave the stock compound on the board, the thermal interface won't be so good as if you cleaned it up and pour the Silagerm directly on the board and all its elements, so they will touch all the elements directly. Attentive viewers may notice that during this cap replacement, the mask of one trace has been damaged a little bit. This is perfectly normal for Begode boards, because all the boards have a mask of really poor quality. I've been already working with a lot of wheels and I've seen a lot of controller boards, and sometimes some of the boards come with damaged mask on some traces in different places. This is really tiny damage, but this happens from the factory. But anyway, that's not really a problem, because as long as you do not short circuit this trace to the neighbor component, or you do not pour water on it, this won't cause any problems with the operation of the controller board. And what you can do if you see this kind of damage on your board, you can just pour some lacquer on the damaged trace, like I did here already. I've closed this area and this is very well protected from short circuits or water ingress. Also, you may use UV mask, which is widely used in boards repair. And anyway, since this controller board will be poured with the compound, there is absolutely no risk for short circuit and damage in this controller board due to water ingress. Of course, one may say that it wasn't necessary to change this cap because everything was working fine before disassembly, but for every wheel I'm doing really attentive inspection for every part of it, including the controller board, and if I see any elements which I do not really like or I found suspicious, I prefer to change it, because you may know that the price of this cap is really nothing and the health of the rider is really priceless. So now, as I replace the suspicious element, I am really sure that this controller board will be working reliably in future, and I do not want to bother my mind with any possible point of failures. During my work with this controller board, I have replaced the stock thermal pad to the ceramic ones using the top level thermal paste, and now I will be sure that this cooling system will work much more effectively than the stock one. Let's do a real quick review of the difference between the custom pedal hangers, which is on the right, and the stock ones, which is on the left. So what we see here is the different position of the motor axle. It gives us lowering the wheel on 10 mm. You may ask why the rider would like to do so. This will give additional aggressiveness and acceleration to the wheel, because you know that the riders who rode version 1 of MCM5 noticed that it was much more aggressive than the version 2. So version 1 was with the thinner tire, and in version 2 they installed the thicker one and they give it lift, and this resulted in less aggressive acceleration, which was on the previous revision of this wheel. Also, you may notice that we have here only 4 fixation points. The stock ones had 6 points. So it is really necessary to reinforce the inner shell to prevent any cracks in future. And of course, it is necessary to use these big washers to make the adjacent area of the screw much bigger to prevent any cracks of the plastic as well. And of course, like all pedal hangers from EUCYou, these ones have this fixation system of the pedals in closed position, which is really comfortable and reliable for daily usage. For the reinforcement of the inner shell, I will use this custom polymorph plastic, which is also available from EUCYou. You can order it in the tuning kit. It is better than the granular one because it has enhanced adhesion to the plastic of the inner shell, and it is much more comfortable to work with.
I've been thinking lately, it feels like I've got a point to prove. Lots of talking, keyboards getting tapped, and that's the voice you use. Too many split and divided, too many points of view. What's your point of view? What's your point of view? I'm dead behind my eyes when my thoughts spinning. Is anybody home? Nah, I pick my eyes apart, shine a torch in them, and check in on my soul. I could do this with my eyes shut, dreaming. Don't get it twisted, I'm scheming. I've been wrestling demons so long, I forget they're not leaving. Keep my eyes shut, freezing. I'll keep it cold in all seasons. Real, no, we're not even. I said real, no, we're not even. With my eyes shut, dreaming. Don't get it twisted, I'm scheming. I've been wrestling demons so long, I forget they're not leaving. Keep my eyes shut, freezing. I'll keep it cold in all seasons. Real, no, we're not even. I said real, no, we're not even. Yeah, that's the intro done now. Man, all this talking's got me more stressed out than a come down. When I ping it off my phone, like what do they want now? Why they banging on my front door? They must have the wrong house. But I still switch the flow so quick you'll miss it. No, I flip the switch and blow and list the flows till acting like it's gravy. Is it Bristol gold? The wheels in motion, word to Bristol though. It's instant Bristol gold. If it's linguistics on Monroe, it's cold. I could do this with my eyes shut, dreaming. Don't get it twisted, I'm scheming. I've been wrestling demons so long, I forget they're not leaving. Keep my eyes shut, freezing. I'll keep it cold in all seasons. Real, no, we're not even. I said real, no, we're not even. With my eyes shut, dreaming. Don't get it twisted, I'm scheming. I've been wrestling demons so long, I forget they're not leaving. Keep my eyes shut, freezing. I'll keep it cold in all seasons. Real, no, we're not even. I said real, no, we're not even.
That's how the reinforcement of the inner shell looks like. It was done with the big washers melted inside. All the screws were fastened with a thread locker. Someone might notice that this hole is not really accurate, but this is pretty normal as long as I tried to save as much stock plastic as I could. You might notice that here I've added more plastic, and of course this hole doesn't look beautiful, but anyway it's really functional since the nut is going inside, and this gives as much reinforcement as possible to this part of the wheel. I've also covered the joint of the inner shell parts with the sealant to prevent any water ingress outside of the wheel well. The height of the controller board compound coverage is more than 1 cm. This is done intentionally to cover all the connectors which I used and not used. You may see here that not used connectors I also covered with the sealant. To make sure that there will be absolutely no problems in case of water ingress inside of this area. The Schottky diode is located here. It also has a fuse in its circuit. It is hidden here right now. I always try to install this diode on main cooling system of the controller board because during its operation it produces some heat which needs to be dissipated, and the more current you flow from it, the more heat it produces. So in my opinion, this is the best place to install it. Also, I have to note that during the installation of the controller board to the heatsink, I had to add extra washers under the distance bushings because their length was not enough and the controller board was bended. This is not a good idea to use it like this, and in this case the traces can be damaged. The controller board must not be bent in any case, and I must say that I've already seen a lot of controller boards with the same problem in EXN, in RS, and I always fix that. I guess that they are cutting these distance bushings by hand because sometimes I see it's of different size. For example, left could be longer than right one and vice versa. So here is the capacitor location. It is the best place to install it. I've added here some foam material. It's fixed here really tightly and won't rattle during the ride. And of course it doesn't touch any of the USB or charging ports on the forward panel of the wheel. Now that's about it. The tuning job is done. The only things left to do is to do the cable management here, to install the cover of the wheel, to install the pedals, the fiberglass protection, and to give this wheel back. If you like this type of tuning, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, comment the video, and follow my Telegram. I will make an updates there just in case the YouTube will be banned in Russia. I will move my content somewhere else and arrange a channel there. See you later, guys.
Ah.